this data starts to speak about the actual costs and margins of the different products. So we have seen that the company makes 10 different gear assemblies. We have shown a couple of them here, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? And we know from the very first spreadsheet what's the sales price of these products, right? We have looked at it for the 6-month period from October 2020 to March 2021. So each of these products sells at a certain price, but how do we know which products are making more money for the company? Which products are more profitable, where I should put more of my focus? Because it's one thing to sell a lot of products, right? But if the products are not getting you the profit, then that's not going to help the business. Whereas there could be some products which may not sell that many quantities, but are more profitable than others. So it's very important for us to understand as a business which products actually are bringing the margin, right, or the profit margin for the company. And what this table shows is how do you break down the standard cost and profitability of different products, right? So think of it as different cost components that a product is made of. So if we are making gear assembly number 3, there are different cost components that go into it. We know that gear assembly 3 requires gears 3A and 3B, and gears 3A requires a certain type of blank, and 3B requires a certain type of blank. So the direct materials are actually the cost of the material that's actually used in producing that particular gear. So that will be the sum of the cost of blank used for 3A plus the cost of the blank used for 3B forms a direct material cost of that gear. So direct materials are the cost of the materials that are directly attributable through the bill of materials to the particular finished product. The next part is
the reason this is left blank is, I guess, we are expected to find it from the cost of the blanks. It can be determined from something else, so that's why it's not written.
Other spreadsheets that will give you what is the cost of different blanks. So we want you to figure out what is the cost of the direct material for gear assembly 3. By following the bill of material, you'll be able to trace and find that out. Direct labor is another cost component, which is basically the people that are involved in actually making that particular product in those lines, the hobbing line, the broaching line, the assembly line that's used for that particular gear assembly. That's direct labor. So all of the salaries, the benefits, the overtime, etc., that's paid to the employees or the contractors or the staff that make those products goes into direct labor. And the third is production overhead. So,
and even that direct labor, we can compute it from something else that is available, or?
No, I think that should be provided. I think that might have been a miss. So that might be, it is there in this next spreadsheet. The direct.
Okay.
The third one is production overhead. So if you look in the factory, you can see that some of the components you can directly cost it, which is the direct material. And some people are working on the lines that are specifically used for making gear assembly 3. But you'll find a lot of the cost in the factory cannot be directly connected to one product. For example, all the maintenance crew, all the lighting and electricity that is used to run the factory overall, right? The overhead lighting, which illuminate all the entire factory, the air conditioning if it's required, the production supervisors who may actually supervise multiple lines, the factory manager's salary, all of these things are what form production overhead. There can also be indirect materials. So the materials that we use to lubricate all the machines that we buy, right? Lubricants that are used, or it could also be other types of materials that we use in a common way, like for example, if we actually buy water to run the factory, right? Or if we buy a certain cleaning agent to clean the factory. So all those things form production overheads. So those are all the costs that are occurring in the factory, but cannot be directly connected to one product. We collect all those costs together and then we apportion that. Apportion means divide it in some way so that it is allocated to all the different products. So that's called production overhead. So here you can see the amount of production overhead that we have decided to attribute or apportion to each of the products. And there are different ways in which that apportionment is done. There is activity-based costing is one way in which you can create a better apportionment of the overhead to the different products and so on. And then there's finally general and administrative overhead. So these are all costs that occur outside the factory. Your sales team, your distribution team, their costs, your management team, like the senior management of the company, their costs, the head office, which may be outside the factory, it may be in a city, the cost of operating that head office. All of those costs are again collected into general administrative, and it's also distributed to the different products that the company makes. All of these costs together will give you the cost of the product. If you go back to the previous tab, it will show you that the cost of goods sold is actually the sum of the three that we just discussed, right? The direct material, the direct labor, and the production overhead. That forms the cost of goods sold. And then the margin, if you go to the right of the spreadsheet, is actually the gross. It's called the gross margin. The gross margin is the average sales price minus the cost of goods sold. So that gives you the gross margin of each product. So I think in this exercise, you can figure out what's the direct material cost. The next tab gives you the other component, direct labor and production overhead. And then with that, you can calculate the cost of goods sold and the margins. And the question I would have is, which product has the highest margin? Which product has the lowest margin? And how do you make decisions about how to prioritize? If you have a constraint in the capacity of the overall factory and I want to prioritize the products I'm making, then the question would be, which product should I prioritize first to make, right? So those are some of the questions involving the margins of the product. So this is the final stage of the whole chain, right? So we talked about how much of the finished products we are selling. Then we talked about how much of the finished product we should make every month in the 24 months. Then we talked about how much of the semi-finished product we should make, which is the gear 3A, 3B, or whatever, right? 6A, 6B. Then we talked about going down to 1 month and figuring out shift by shift how much I should make of in each machine, right, of each product. Now we're coming back to a higher level view and saying, we know that to make a certain gear, we need a gear assembly, we need gears and we need blanks, right? We need different types of blanks. In reality, we actually need 6 types of blanks. With these 6 blanks, we can make any gear, if you see the bill of material. And with those, we can then make any assembly, right? But at the end of the day, it comes down to buying 6 blanks, right? 001, 002, 011, 012, and 021, 022. Now, as a purchasing department, I am entrusted or I'm asked to make sure that I buy the right quantities of these 6 blanks so that my gear production can happen smoothly without any disruption. There should not be any lack of blanks that is preventing me from carrying out my production schedule of the different gears that I want to make in my production process, right? Now, what you find is that if you trace the whole bill of materials down, you'll be able to see the actual amount of each blank that is consumed in each month from April 2019 to March 2021. So you see column number D, and if you see D4, the cell, it says production issues blank 001 is 6270. What that means is that during that month of April 2019, I had to use 6,270 units of blank 001 because I am making some gears. There are a number of gears that require this particular blank. So my production schedule is asking me to make sure that 6,270 blank 001s are available to be issued in that month into production. Issued means given to the shop floor, right? So from the raw material store, I have to give that much quantity to the shop floor. Now, when we talk about purchasing, it is about placing orders to make sure that in time I get deliveries of my materials that can then be used for production. So what you see here is something called order quantity. An order quantity means how many orders, how many units should I order with my supplier in a certain month, so that I will get that order quantity in the following month, right? So what you see here in this table is that in March 2019, I had an ending inventory of blank 001 of 11,230 units. So that's how much I had in my store, raw material store. And I again placed an order for 7,698 units. Now, in all this, in this entire sheet, the assumption is the lead time is 1 month. So that means if I place an order for 7,698 units in March, I will get it in April. So the following month, I will be getting the product delivered from my supplier into my factory. Now, this sheet shows you the amount of production and the amount of blanks that I need to issue every single month for the 24 months. And this then will give us an interesting puzzle, which is how much should I order in each month and how much will be my ending inventory of each month in these 24 months. So this is the exercise that we'll have to do. Now, to make sure that we order the right quantity, there are certain formulae that we use. So if you come back to the slide presentation, you'll see that there is a concept. There's a couple of concepts in module 9 that I want to give an overview. So if you see here, sure. This shows the concept of ABC. So that means of all the products that all the materials that we buy in a particular manufacturing company, there could be some materials that are called A category, which are the highest value, right? They are actually forming maybe 70% of value of everything I buy. But in terms of numbers, they are usually very small. Few products contribute to a high value of the overall pie. So those are called category A materials. We want to tightly control their inventory. We want the maintenance of the records to be very accurate. And usually we use the planned order concept to release orders just in time for those products. Then you have medium, which is category B, and then category C, which is low in value but high in number. There's not a lot of little things like nuts and bolts and things that form category C, where we may not want very tight controls, and we may use methods like economic order quantity. Now, here we are going to use this concept of safety stock and lead time demand to order the blanks, because the blanks are definitely valuable, and we need to make sure that the ordering, we don't over order, which means we end up with too many blanks and stuck money and stuck capital, and we don't under order, because we under order, that means that we will not have enough blanks to actually make the gears that we want to make. So the concept here is that gear blanks are considered as a B category, and we want to use this concept of safety stock in here. So the graph that you see on the right side, it shows the inventory level. So how many blanks do I have in my store? That's what that graph shows, right? So at time 0, we start with a quantity Q, but every single day, as I keep doing hobbing and broaching, right, I keep taking some of these blanks for that process, and the amount of inventory we have keeps going down, right? When it crosses that line called reorder point, that means it has gone below a certain level called reorder point. Immediately, I want to place an order with my supplier. And the quantity that amount that I want to order is called the reorder quantity. And the level at which this order is placed is called the reorder point. Now, what happens is that beyond the reorder point, we keep consuming more and more and more, right? But before we reach 0, right? Actually, this graph is not quite showing. There's a point just above 0 that we actually receive the order that we just placed, right? When we cross the order point, we place an order, we receive those products in. So the inventory then goes back up to a high level, and then we start consuming again. Again, when we cross the order point, we place the next order, and then we receive the next order, and so on. The idea is that the lowest point you ever want to go is not, you never go negative, right? So you should not have negative inventory, which means that you never have to stop production on account of not having the product on hand. So that's how this whole formula works. So there's two concepts to this. One concept is called safety stock, which means that we know there is going to be some variation in demand, right? Month and month and month, month over month over month. It's not the same amount of gear blanks that we're going to consume. So we want to make sure that we have some stock in hand that will allow us to tide between the maximum usage and the average usage. So we want to plan for a max average usage, but even if we hit the maximum usage, we still should not go out of stock. So that's the first concept, is a safety stock. The second concept is that after you place the order, there will be some amount of time called lead time until you get those products from the supplier. So during that lead time, you still have some demand that you want to cater. uh, that's called the lead time demand. So in that picture, what you see between the order placed and order received, how much consumption is happening, that's the lead time demand. And the reorder quantity is the sum of the safety stock and the lead time demand. So that's the formula for how much is the reorder point. So the reorder point, yeah.
So, Shiv, when we were discussing the e-commerce case, we had discussed this concept called stockout,
Mhm.
and this seems to be very similar to a stockout, right? You essentially don't want to be in a situation where you are going to lose something because your warehouse did not have certain items.
Absolutely.
But here, what is interesting to me is now there is a fair amount of analysis that people are doing in order to avoid stockouts. So this is something new that we have learned in this session.
Yes, absolutely, Milind. So that's a very similar thing. So in an e-commerce setting, if you had a stock out, then you lose the sale, right? Basically, the customer doesn't get the product, or they go to another portal or another company. In this case, if you don't have stock, you lose production. The hobbing machine will be sitting idle. You have a plan to make 400 units, but you can't even start the operation because there's no blanks available. So losing production is just as bad as losing sales. So that's the reason why we want to avoid stockouts in this case. But in this industry, in this example, there's a very specific formula that's being used to make sure that we balance the loss from having a stockout with the loss from having too much products in our inventory, right? So this formula gives us the right balance between having just enough, order so many products at the right time so that you avoid stockout, yet you don't maintain overly too much inventory and lock up your money in that, right? So that's what this formula tries to do.
Sure.
Yeah, the EOQ is a concept that's used for the C category items, where we want to make sure that especially these are items where we consume a lot of space, right? So the holding cost is also an important thing to consider. Not only the capital or the money that's locked up, but also the warehouse, the capacity, and all that. And this is typically used in the items that are physically take very large amount of storage, like packing materials, for example, is used using EOQ, economic order quantity, where you're trying to balance the ordering cost, because every time you place an order, there is some administrative cost to placing the order, and then the holding cost. So we will not be using this formula for our case study. We'll be using the previous one, which is basically the safety stock and reorder point and reorder quantity concept, right? So then we can possibly go back to the worksheet where
Spreadsheet?
yeah,
So, but in the e-commerce case, Milind, we saw that certain items like FMCG we were buying in cartons, boxes.
Correct.
So that is the EOQ. That's where the EOQ concept comes.
Absolutely. Right? So there was the mobile and FMCG.
Mobile, yeah, mobile lifestyle and FMCG.
Correct. And I think that maps somewhat to the three categories that Shiv was talking about.
Right. Correct. Mobile would be category A. Lifestyle might be category B, and FMCG will be category C, right?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So this worksheet doesn't have the order quantities for each month, but there is, I think, maybe another worksheet that has. But what we are trying to do is use the concept of safety stock and reorder point and reorder quantity to make sure that we issue the right number of purchase orders for the right quantity in the right month. So that's what the exercise is all about. So possibly, when you actually get into that data, that can be explained. So I think at the high level, this is probably sufficient to show the purchasing side of the house. So the goal of the purchasing manager then is therefore to make sure that the right amount of goods are bought at the right time, to balance between the risk of not having stock, right, and therefore impacting production, versus the cost of holding too much inventory. So it's about how do you drive the right balance, and that's what the purchasing side is looking at. So the questions here would be possibly, what's the kind of variation that you see in the purchasing quantities between the different months? What is the right safety stock? What is the right reorder point for some of these products based on the data that's been given for the 24 months?